I came to the WLA about 3.5 years ago, and as I became familiar with collections, the collection of Mollie West stood out in living color. The records we have cover almost Mollie's entire life, from her birth in 1916 and run up until about 10 years of her before she passed away. The breadth and depth of the records are incredible. They detail a life of activism in many areas, and primarily in the women and labor movement. Mollie spent the last few years of her life in a nursing home, and she died last August 2015. And it was then that I met her son, Steve West, who we're very pleased to have here from California, and his friend Jody, who also came. And so we were very excited about that. And it was also last year that I became acquainted with the Illinois Labor History Society, of which Mollie had been a secretary and a big, long-time volunteer. The Labor History Society put together a program last October, kind of a celebration of Mollie's life, and we invited family, friends, and folks to share memories. And it was after that program that I thought, oh my gosh, we should do something along the lines of an online exhibit, which we had done before, but there should be a way that we should publicize her life of activism and increase awareness of our collections, and I got very excited about that. And then I met with Dr. Kyle Roberts, who, as many of you know, I believe is an idea-generating Energizer bunny. And that's a big compliment. And he suggested that not only do we do an online exhibit and some different ways that we could do that, but we make an overall project, and that we have other phases and aspects of it down the road. And so we planned for that from the beginning. And so the Women in Labor Project was born. In the future, we hope to do some oral histories with other women labor leaders in Chicago. We hope to involve other classes at Loyola, possibly some high school students in the area, and of course, History Fair, which are middle school and high school students who use primary sources for contest here in the area. Before I turn the program over to Caroline, who's going to give you all the details, I would like to do some thank yous. And normally these are left to the end, but because these are so important, I would like to do them right now. So first, the funders. The majority of these funds that were raised paid for Caroline to work from May through August to create the exhibit. And those who contributed were Steve West, Mollie's son, the Illinois Labor History Society, CLUE, the Coalition of Labor Union Women, Chicago chapter, and the Gannon Center for Women and Leadership, and university libraries. Women's Studies and Gender Studies, also from Loyola. In addition, the Center for Textual Studies and Digital Humanities provided us with a grant that we had applied for to digitize some VHS tapes and cassette tapes in Mollie's collection. And the reason that I think that that is so important is, in the little tour Caroline will give you, is that we tell you about events in Mollie's life, we show them to you, and then she speaks about them, which I think is very, very powerful to hear her voice in that. So thank you, funders, very much. I think they need a round of applause. The second set of thank yous goes to a phenomenal exhibit team that we put together to guide the whole creation of this. And those folks are Michelle Nickerson from the History Department, Kathleen Moss-Weigert from Sociology, Stephanie Seaweld Fortato, who was with the Illinois Labor History Society and is no longer, but she was on the committee, and pardon? Oh. And that's the contingency there from that historical. And Dr. Kyle Roberts, who not only is the Energizer Bunny, but also is the local expert and helped us a ton with the Omeka exhibit. And last but certainly not least is Caroline Lynn Yanakopoulos, who I will probably embarrass tremendously by giving her all these compliments, but they are well-deserved. Caroline graduated in May from Loyola's Public History program and has done a phenomenal job on this exhibit. Her hard work, dedication and creativity will show through. And she's been a joy to work with. The entire team was fantastic, so let's give the team and Caroline a round of applause. All right, all those thank yous and details done. I am going to turn it over to Caroline, and she will tell a little bit about Mollie's life in the exhibit. All right, I'll let you go this way.
All right, welcome everyone. Thank you for coming. So I'm going to tell you a little bit about Mollie West for those that are unfamiliar with her collection and her life. Mollie Lieber West, born in 1916, was a Jewish-Polish immigrant who settled in Chicago just before the start of the Great Depression at the age of about 12 or 13. She grew up on the west side of Chicago, where she became interested in politics and workers' rights at a young age. In high school, she was arrested for planning a student strike, beginning her lifetime of activism. She joined the Young Communist League when she was just a teenager, where she learned about community organization and activism. She was an organizer for the Communist Party for many years, finally leaving the party in the 1960s due to the pressures of the Red Scare and to focus on taking care of her family. She supported the steel strikers at the Republic Steel Strike of 1937 and witnessed the brutal deaths of the Memorial Day Massacre. After that day, she dedicated her life to the labor movement and was present on every picket line and supported every workers' strike that she could. She joined the printing trade at a time when women were not welcome in the printing trade. I forgot about my pictures here. There's Mollie. And she became a strong voice in the typographical union. She accomplished many firsts while in the union, becoming the first woman elected to a leadership position while in the typographical union. For decades, she pushed the limits placed on women so that their unique needs as workers would be recognized by unions. And she did all of these things as a single working mother raising her son. Mollie was a founding member of the Coalition of Labor Union Women, an organization that bridges the labor movement and the women's movement. She continued to be active in this and other organizations and labor unions her entire life. After retiring from the printing trade, she volunteered full-time as secretary for the Illinois Labor History Society, where she worked to make sure that labor history and the history of women in the labor movement were preserved and remembered. Mollie West died in 2015 at the age of 99. This is just a brief introduction to Mollie's life. There are too many stories and too many accomplishments to talk about, which is why we created this exhibit, to share all of those things. Okay. This exhibit used the extensive collection at the WLA of photographs, objects, and documents to share the story of Mollie's life and use that as a lens to talk about the contributions of women in the labor movement. We put a lot of research and planning, of course, into this project, and one of the first decisions that we made was what platform to use for the exhibit. Initially going in, I expected to use Omeka, which is a program that has a lot of plugins, and you can do a lot with those plugins to create really creative exhibits. But as we went into the structure that we wanted, the plugins really didn't offer the flexibility that I wanted for the project, and the look that I wanted. And sustainability was also a concern because I wanted the exhibit to be easy to maintain and manage for future WLA staff and graduate assistants. So with those things in mind, I looked into using WordPress.com. So WordPress offered me a little more flexibility and the ability to link pages and organize pages the way that I wanted. And the theme that I chose really lets the photos and images shine, as you can see on each page. We did use Omeka for one part of the exhibit, and that is what it was originally created for, to house the digital collection. So with any photo in the exhibit, you can click on the photo and it will take you to this page in the Omeka collection, where you can learn more about the date and the photos from the archival collection. Going into this, we wanted the site to be useful for a variety of audiences: academic researchers, just Chicago history buffs, women and men that were active in the labor movement and wanted to learn more about the history, people that knew Mollie, and also history fair students, as Nancy mentioned. So with these things in mind, we wanted to make it so that you can both go through the story of Mollie West's life. If you want to know the whole narrative, you can go through using, we have it organized into chapters, each representing certain themes and a period in Mollie's life. Beginning with her youth, of course, and her immigration to the United States and to Chicago. And at the bottom of each page is a link to the next. But we also wanted to make it easy for people who might only be interested in certain topics. And that's what these chapters are really useful for. You can go to a certain chapter, which will lead you to the page that most interests you. At the beginning of each page, we offered some historical context. We tried to keep it brief, even though it was very difficult because there are a lot of topics, a lot of themes, and a lot of important events from the labor movement that we wanted to include. But so we used this section just to give an introduction to these things and really set up the themes and highlight how women contributed to these events and these periods of time. And it also set up the next portion of each page, which tells you about Mollie's life and her contributions, what she was dealing with at these certain times. Interspersed with the text, of course, we have these amazing photos and different media, including videos of Mollie telling her own story in her own words, which really help you connect to the events and the history. In certain times where we wanted to add more, we sometimes had a learn more section at the bottom of the page for researchers who are really interested in that topic. So this Labor and Loss World War II page is one of my favorites. It's, for one reason, it has a very emotional, romantic story about Mollie during World War II and her first husband, Carl Lieber. But also, this is a great page. It really highlights how we use the collection and how extensive her archival collection is. So you have great photos and then letters that Mollie and Carl sent to each other daily during the 1940s. And we even added an extra page where you can go and read some of these letters. We have a huge collection of these, and here are just some examples that really tell you about day-to-day life, Mollie's work, and Carl's experiences in the war. And at the bottom here, we have two great examples of the results of the grant we received from the Center for Textual Studies and Digital Humanities. With that grant, we were able, like Nancy mentioned, to digitize some VHS tapes and other media that we had never been able to watch or see before, including these two records. These records, Carl recorded personal messages to Mollie and mailed them to Mollie while he was serving in the Army. And so they have very touching messages to her and really offer another, just like the letters, another look into their experiences and the experiences of others like them dealing with this war. So that's just one of the examples of the pages, and I will show you another that really highlights some of Mollie's work in the labor union and her perseverance in becoming a leader and opening doors for women in unions. This page shows you some fantastic artifacts that we have in the collection, including these medallions that she wore at conventions.
That's my favorite picture, by the way.
It is a great photo. I love it too. So there you go. And this video is from a reel-to-reel audio tape that we also got to hear for the first time, in which Mollie talks about her first convention with the Typographical Union, where she stood up to speak, which women did not do at that time at the convention. And so it's a really funny story, and it's really great to hear it in her words. So that gives you a little look at what's in the exhibit and how we put it together, how we tried to structure it for the use of all kinds of people who might be interested in these topics, and to really highlight Mollie's life, but also use Mollie as an example of a woman dealing with things that many women did and accomplishing many things. One thing that we did want to add to the exhibit were some oral history interviews that would offer perspectives from different people on Mollie and on their own experiences in the labor movement, and we did run out of time to do that. I had the opportunity of interviewing Katie Jordan, who is a member of the Coalition of Labor Union Women, and she told some wonderful stories about Mollie and about her own experiences in labor, and we hope to be able to add that to the exhibit soon. And also, the WLA is working to hopefully someday do another phase of this Women in Labor project, do a lot of other oral histories to make sure that we preserve the history of other women in the labor movement. And that's about all I have for now, and I'll turn it over to Nancy.
All right, and my favorite photo is the one, and you'll have to find it on the exhibit. I don't know if Megan can find it, where Mollie is at the table and or is in front, and there's lots of men. You can see some women, but mainly men, and half the men are asleep. I have to tell you, that is see, he's got his mouth open. And we have the whole picture on there. It is just, I don't know, it says so much. So anyway, I will turn it over now to Dr. Kyle Roberts to say a few words from the Center for Textual Studies and Digital Humanities.
Well, thank you to both Nancy and Caroline, and it's fantastic to see a packed room for these. This is our second lunchtime lecture of the fall semester, and we're going to need to find larger rooms if we're going to keep doing these events. So I just want to say how happy we were to be able to help support this project. The Center for Textual Studies and Digital Humanities is meant to be a broadly multidisciplinary research center, and it's here within the college. And there are actually only 2 research centers in the college, and so we take very seriously trying to work across boundaries. I think many of you who are from the Loyola community might know a lot of people in your department, but it's sometimes hard to break out of that, and this is really what we're trying to do. So we offer support for projects like this, for their development, for their management, and for their publication. We like to organize events like this one, where we bring people together, lectures, symposia, conferences, training workshops, and exhibitions. We also have a professional interdisciplinary master's in digital humanities. So if anybody is looking to learn new skills in the digital humanities, please let us know. We were very happy to be able to support this project specifically through a grant, and maybe if time permits, we can actually play some of those. I think we were teased. I think I want to hear what Carl had to say on those great records. So it was really fantastic, and I think that's one way that the center can really help support, right? It provides funding that you wouldn't have otherwise to unlock these riches. I'll say that I think, Nancy was very nice in thanking me. I think I probably got more out of it, having the chance to really work collaboratively with a fantastic team that was made up of people from academic departments, from community organizations who I wouldn't normally get to meet, with the university libraries. And I think I want to give a special thanks to Margaret Heller, who I think really helped get the Omeka site up. That's the backbone for the items behind it. I'm assuming you probably help with the WordPress too, right? Okay. Okay, not the WordPress then. That all goes to Caroline. So the university libraries is another really important partner in this work. And I think moving forward, it's going to be really exciting. I think what I want to encourage everyone in this room to do is think about the digital platforms that we have and how they can unlock the materials that we have, how we can make them more accessible. And if it's okay, if I can reserve the right to ask the first question to Caroline. So Caroline is a fantastic graduate of our public history program. And I'm curious, Caroline, if you could reflect a little on what was the most exciting opportunity, but also the biggest challenge in moving from all of these boxes of archives that you had been working with for quite some time into something like this, into a digital platform. What did you find what was the biggest challenge maybe that you had in making that transition, but also what were you most excited about in being able to do that?
So working at the WLA as a graduate assistant, we had done a lot of research with Mollie and used her for different things, and it seemed like anytime we looked into the collection, we learned more things about her life, like some other cool thing that she had done. And so that was really exciting to just have time to dedicate to learning as much as I could about Mollie West and trying to put together a narrative of her life. You'll see in the exhibit there's just countless cool little things that she accomplished and was a part of. And then a difficult thing,
Challenge in making that transition?
It was challenging to, because there was so much information, I think it was the biggest challenge was just organizing that into these different topics and trying to put it in context of Chicago's history and the broader history of the labor movement, and be concise, because that's something you want to try to do when you're in an online format. Try to make it easy so people can find the information they want, and so that was a bit of a challenge.
All right, I will say that was also a huge challenge, because I should have counted how many boxes we have. We just have so much information. And I only partially joke that when I start talking to people about Mollie West, I actually really can't do it, because I just go on, because it's very difficult to encapsulate, and Caroline did that well. So any other questions? All right, Emily.
Hi, this is a great project, and thank you so much for working on it. And following up on that topic of needing to be concise in creating a website, so this is for Caroline. It's hard to tell just from not messing with the site myself here. I noticed you said that you wrote sort of introductions to each chapter, right? Did you put hyperlinks into it to bring people to, if they're, oh, this is interesting, and it sort of takes you off? Did you have to make a decision about whether you're going to put hyperlinks in or not, and did you add in a bibliography? You said there's sort of more information below if you want to know more. So as somebody's going through it and they want to know more, they have a lot about Mollie, but then maybe that time period to find out more information. I guess I'm just curious how you make that decision about what to put in and what not to put in.
Sure.
Just to not overload people.
Right, it is really difficult.
Never stop. Yeah.
Right, yes, because there are books and could be books about each page of this, so it was really hard. I didn't put hyperlinks into each page. I tried to just be concise, and then I do have a bibliography about this project,
Okay.
that lists all of the different sources, books and websites that were helpful to me and that I learned from. And I also do link to the Illinois Labor History Society, because they do have a lot on their website too. So hopefully people will learn more from going through their website and looking up these other things.
Great.
Another question?
You've mentioned a couple times that you're hoping that kids who are working on history fair projects are going to use this. And I was wondering if are you actively like marketing this to schools and teachers, or are you just sort of hoping that they'll find it? How does that work?
A little bit of both. And we are in the kind of early stages because this went up right on the Friday of Labor Day, which we did a little happy dance that we got it up right on that Friday. In terms of History Fair, we do partner, and Lisa, who is from History Fair, is back there, so I might let her talk for a moment. But when you go out, you will see some handouts, some cards, we put those in the History Fair teachers' packets. And I know that Lisa and the other History Fair folks are big supporters of the WLA, so they promote that. We'll see how much gets used this year, and then hopefully maybe more, and partnering with specific classes. We've done that in the past. Some folks have brought their classes to the WLA for History Fair. So I think what we'll do is work with the History Fair folks to figure out kind of how to make inroads in that. So a little bit of both. So I don't know if Lisa has anything to add to that.
I have my hat on today as someone that knew Mollie for a couple of decades as well as History Fair, and so I've just been really thrilled with the site and exploring it. Among these other uses of having students learn about the site, and I think we have on our suggested topics for this year, which is taking a stand in history, and there's Mollie across the 20th century taking a stand. So she's a subject that we're encouraging students to look at. It's such a marvelous website itself and does so much of what we want students to do who choose to develop a website for their own History Fair project, that I've been thinking about how can I use this to teach students how to do really good websites that have, a particular interpretation, that does a beautiful, concise job with the context. If you never are wondering where you are in history or where her own actions fit into the larger picture. And so that's kind of, both of the things are mulling about in my mind, but it's really wonderful. So we'll pursue more.
All right. Other questions, Helen?
Yeah, I'm just thinking of a couple of the fun things about Mollie, having known her for a while. One is, I imagine it's somewhere in there, but her big job with the typographical union, she put out the daily racing form, before we had computers when you went to the racetrack, and often she would hold that up. And also, yes, she was the only woman in the, with all of the men in the CFL. And she was never afraid to speak up and say something, but she would introduce herself as Brother Mollie West, since they all themselves as brother. Is that in there somewhere?
Yes, actually, when I brought up the Women in Labor Union Leadership, the video I was talking about where she tells that's the story she's telling in that video about how she stood up and said, "I'm Brother Mollie West." And she did it to be funny, it seems, but it also to make a statement of how women were kind of shut out of the unions at that time. So yes, it's a great story.
Yes.
Yeah, hi. I'm Debbie Pope. I'm the current secretary of the Illinois Labor History Society, and I also work for the Teachers Union, and we would be happy to work with you to disseminate it through our way of getting out with our Chicago Union teacher newspaper to CBS teachers. So that's another possibility. I didn't get to know Mollie until 2001, I guess. And I had the good fortune when Lisa invited me to join the board of the Labor History Society to take Mollie home after almost every board meeting because we lived near each other. And the stories she would tell me, especially about the war days and about you as a little boy and things like that, it was like a wonderful, wonderful window into the past. And she was almost exactly the same age as my own mother, who had died when I was quite young. And I just loved hearing her because it gave me a context also for my mother's life as a Jewish immigrant woman, progressive. So thank you so much for this exhibit. It's a fabulous name.
And we'll talk afterwards. All right, other questions?
Want to hear some of Mollie's voice?
Sure.
Please.
CLUE is an organization of labor union women from every part of the country and every union of every description. And its basic purpose is to develop a program in the first place to help bring into the labor union movement the 30 million women who are now in the workforce who are not organized. There are 34 million women in all, and 4 million are organized. We are going to help create an atmosphere where women will feel that it's okay for them to work, that it's not defying any code of ethics, that it's not defying any old precepts, that women are just working because they don't have to, or that if they are working, they are doing so because they are in some way not doing other things, such as the concept that they're not taking care of their responsibilities at home and children and so on. To create an atmosphere where it is clearly established that women are working in the first place because they have to. They have to, if they're single, they certainly have to, and they have to if they're married, because with the high cost of living and inflation, it is impossible for a single working man to support a family, even on a minimum standard of living. The women are among the lowest paid, and I think CLUE will help create not only a discussion, but will help initiate legislation, I believe, to raise the minimum wage, to generally raise the whole question of such conditions for women that makes it possible for them to have a better standard of living. Wages is one big issue because there is a tremendous difference between the wages that many women get who are doing the same work as men. And this is a very, very important question. The second question, in my opinion, in relation to women in the labor movement right now is the question of upgrading. There are many areas of work that are not open to women, not because they cannot do them, but because traditionally they were closed to them. There are many unions that are composed almost in majority of women, and yet they do not enjoy the kind of level of leadership that they should have by their number or by their ability. And I think the whole question of the participation of union women in the affairs of their union is going to be a very important question. And the recognition of the need to make it possible for women to participate in the affairs of the union, to encourage more women to participate in the affairs of the union, because many are intimidated, not by any overt act, but by just an atmosphere that's created. And I think that CLUE is going to be a big factor, in my opinion, of helping to encourage women to participate in the affairs of their union, to speak up at union meetings, to raise issues that normally the men leaders would not be concerned with or raise as part of the programs of the unions.
Any other questions or comments?
I have a comment.
Oh, yes, Michelle.
I also, one of the things I think that didn't come up, because there's so much in that exhibit that's really spectacular, is the coverage of challenges that Mollie had with anti-communism. And it covers that period of history so well. Carolyn did a fabulous job with it. It's something that came up in our conversations a lot. And so I think in terms of what students, one of the things that they'll benefit from such a collection is the fine political history that Caroline has done as part of her interpretation. So thank you.
Mm-hmm. Very true. Other comments or questions? All right, as we are looking to wrap up, I was remiss, and thank you, Kyle, to thank Margaret for the behind the scenes Omeka and the support that we get from university libraries for our system. So Margaret is always fantastic and answers all our questions and solves all our problems, really. So at least in that manner. But anyway, so let's see, anybody else? All right. Well, thank you all very much for coming, and if you would like to talk with us or each other afterwards, feel free to do that. And good luck out there, but thank you for coming.